Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering the woke war. A canceled college professor is fighting back, starting a new anti-woke university. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Coming from the Daily Mail, university professor canceled by students sets up a faculty for common sense at rival institution to fight wokeness. Professor Eric Kaufmann is launching a war on woke at University of Buckingham. And it's great to see teachers pushing back. Everyone has to push back because they're going to keep pushing at you until you keep pushing back. When it gets too hard, then they start to back off. An eminent professor canceled by students at a top London university is launching a war on woke by founding a faculty for common sense at a rival institution. Professor Eric Kaufmann, formerly head of politics at Birkbeck, University of London, is creating a center for heterodox social science as a beacon of academic free speech at the University of Buckingham. He hopes it will become a globally recognized center for research into today's culture wars, examining woke attitudes to controversial subjects such as trans rights and critical race theory. Professor Kaufmann's first course, quote, Woke: The Origins, Dynamics, and Implications of an Elite Ideology, will be launched in January 2024. A master's degree will follow in September 2024. Both are the first of their kind in the world. The move follows what he believes to be a 5-year campaign to oust him from Birkbeck for his right-leaning views on ethnicity, national identity, left-wing ideology, and religion. He quit at the end of August following a 20-year career. The professor says, quote, I was canceled by 1,000 cuts. Academia should be about the advancement of knowledge, but you're not allowed to advance theories which go against the progressive narrative. If you have a different viewpoint, you're in the crosshairs. The climate at British universities has worsened because morally absolutist, often younger illiberal progressives are using pressure, public reputational attacks, and social media to limit academic freedom. It's really a sickness, of course, in the UK, but we have this throughout the United States now. Quote, it's a target-rich environment. The woke left can make your life hell, and they know it. You worry about saying the wrong thing in class, so you make it vanilla. You worry about getting your research grant, so you self-censor. You've got to be in line with the orthodoxy. You can't deviate from dogma. It's an Orwellian threat to the Enlightenment. Free speech, equal treatment, due process, objective scientific truth. I believe this new woke ideology threatens the foundations of our civilization. Every parent in the UK and around the world should be concerned at how far this has penetrated into our universities, schools, and elite institutions. Today, Professor Kaufmann, who's half Jewish, a quarter Chinese, and a quarter Costa Rican, reveals details of how he was labeled a white supremacist and a racist apologist for holding views which he defines as liberal conservative. He has faced social media pylons on Twitter organized by hostile students, an open letter to the master of Birkbeck denouncing him and calling for him to be fired for his defense of white identity politics, and his countless attacks against Black Lives Matter and other activists and scholars of color on social media. Denunciations from a junior colleague who resigned because of the impact on Birkbeck staff and students of being in such close proximity to his right-wing followers, dragging him into an embarrassing media storm. A number of hostile student course evaluations and letters which he believes were a coordinated attack, resulting in 3 damaging internal inquiries, being avoided by some of his colleagues who were desperate to avoid being canceled by association. Today, he's no longer part of Birkbeck's politics department, which is housed in the Bloomsbury Group study rooms once graced by T.S. Eliot, George Bernard Shaw, and John Maynard Keynes. Very important writers. Instead, he's sitting in a smart London bar telling his story in the soft Canadian accent of his native country. He says, I'm the kind of academic who doesn't want to see traditional things renamed and statues taken down. I don't want conversations about immigration or homelessness and the causes of it simply shut down. But if that's you in 2023, then you're radioactive. As a conservative thinker, he jokes that at the start of his UK career, Back in the 90s, he was, quote, in the closet. I was careful to keep things at an abstract enough level, nothing too controversial. I ascended the university ladder. It went smoothly. It is a left-wing environment. So you internalize the fact that conversation is not as free as it should be, but you adapt. However, by 2022, when I was nailing my colors to the mast, becoming associated with conservatism, the academic freedom bill, and the anti-woke movement, there's no question that I was a scalp. The academic freedom bill, to which the professor is referring, became law in May this year, aimed at protecting dissenting voices in Britain's higher education sector. It included the appointment of a free speech and academic freedom champion to the board of the Office for Students, strengthening the right to free speech in universities, and extended it to students' unions, and created a new complaint scheme for breaches, such as when a guest speaker is no-platformed by opponents at a campus event. Professor Kaufmann co-authored the 2021 think tank report, which was the source for several of its key proposals. Quote, yes, that bill which the university and college union hate and which radical students hate, he shrugs. Despite the protections offered by the new law, he decided he could not continue teaching at Birkbeck, relinquishing what he amiably agrees was a fireproof job for life, a tenured professorship gold-plated with a nice pension. From today, his new and far more precious academic home will be at the University of Buckingham, one of Britain's few not-for-profit private universities, which is currently flying up the country's Good University Guides. It is the UK's top-ranked university for freedom of expression, according to this year's National Student Survey. Professor Kaufmann's own research work at his new Center for Heterodox Social Science will begin immediately. From January, he will be teaching a low-cost 15-week online course open to anyone in the world, and he's already building the new master's course. A Buckingham spokesman said, under the professor's leadership, the center will stand as a beacon for freedom of expression and will seek to promote academic freedom of speech. He's an outstanding scholar who will add much to the intellectual life of the university. He says, we need to study the woke left just as we study the populist right. It's very important culturally and now politically. It's deciding elections in huge jurisdictions. It's a big aspect of sociology and politics and intellectual history, which remains an underserviced area in academia. It's time to put it on the couch and take it apart. The professor knows he's outnumbered by, he estimates, 9-1 in terms of left-leaning academics versus right-leaning academics in the social sciences, and a generation of students who have been nicknamed YIPs, young illiberal progressives, but he's standing fast, a vocal and visible minority. He says he felt attitudes towards him start to shift as early as 2016 and then hardened throughout 2017 to 2018 when he began addressing the rise of populism. His first significant pushback, he recalls, was when a newly recruited millennial academic in his department objected to him participating in a debate about the impact of rising ethnic diversity. Quote, it was seen as too provocative, Professor Kaufmann recalls. I was head of a department. The person who complained about it was a new hire. You would have thought that would matter, but no, there was just this moral self-righteousness. The complaint was the colleague who later would publicly denounce him. He was the subject of organized Twitter pile-ons over tweets as diverse as mocking Canadian Premier Justin Trudeau for stumbling over the acronym LGBT to posting a picture of a plus-size model. Referring to the picture, he says, I was asking something like, what explains this? Is it about the left and the desire to level hierarchies of beauty or talent? Or is it more about modernism and the shock of the new? That was seen as somehow racist because the model was black. Quote, offense archaeology dredges this stuff up, he continues. These people look for old tweets that they can assemble into a new portfolio, joining the dots on the worst interpretation possible. The professor was also the subject of 3 internal complaints, which he suspects were linked to his work on the Academic Freedom Bill. He cannot discuss the outcome of these internal disciplinary procedures, but will say you get an email saying a complaint has been registered and it puts the fear of God into you. You plead your case. They give you their verdict in a court convened by the university. It was a year ago he realized he could not continue in the post. He was finding an awkwardness in his working relationships with some colleagues as his notoriety grew, and he was increasingly anxious about forthcoming research projects that might be stymied by an ethics committee with 1 or 2 potentially hostile members. Quote, my biggest worry was that they were going to start clamping down essentially censoring me. Now he's free of that potential threat. So here's a university professor striking back at the woke agenda, setting up his own anti-woke programs, and continuing to teach. You have to fight back. These guys just keep pushing and try to force people to self-censor or just quit. Great to see this guy won't quit. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.